Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Metropol TV, the first 24-hour business news channel here in Nairobi. My name is Ali Khan Sachu. I'm the host of The Smart Investor, and really I commend you if on a Friday night you're here watching us. I really appreciate it, because as I came to the studio, everybody was out in Nairobi. Let me start with the president. The president said that Kenya's economy should grow at an improved 6.3% in 2019. These are good figures. We've tried to disaggregate them. They're good headline figures, but obviously below the headline numbers, we're seeing a lot of diversification. Some folks are doing very well, the people in the IT economy, the digital economy, sports betting, the number of industries doing well, but then a number of other ones struggling. It's not too difficult to work out which ones are those. I've got a great guest coming in the second half. His name is Harry Hare. He's the editor of CIO magazine, and the founder of the demo platform, which has gone Pan-African, and we'll talk to him a little bit later. But let's finish up our Kenya stories. The big story in today's paper about the 300 billion shilling highway, mega highway they're calling it, between Nairobi and Mombasa. I remember being a young boy and going on that road many, many years ago, and once counting over 500 elephants. But obviously this is the gateway from Mombasa, and this is the contract that Bechtel, the Bechtel Corporation, the American corporation, has won, and it's going to be a toll road. So let's see when that gets going. The other interesting data point I saw was Carrefour. You remember a few years ago, it was all Nakumatt. As we saw the demise of Nakumatt, it was Carrefour who stepped up and practically took all their shops, which were in such prime real estate. Carrefour clocked 14 billion shillings of sales. That's a big number in a very short space of time, and it tells you how much they've moved the needle in the supermarket space in Kenya, and how quickly as well. Telkom Kenya's new gambit. This is all about the proposed merger with Airtel Kenya. Airtel and Telkom. Telkom will transfer mobile, enterprise and its carrier business to Airtel. Airtel will be rebranded after the conclusion of the transfer deal. The point to note is Airtel, which is Pan-African. This was the old Zain, if you remember. It was founded originally by Muhammad Ibrahim, the Sudanese entrepreneur, and it's currently owned by the Indians, and the Indian holding company Airtel India is looking to do an IPO soon, and that's why they're bulking up. They're looking for bulking up opportunities to create more scale. And that's what this merger is all about, creating scale for Airtel and Telkom. You remember yesterday we were talking about Bob Collymore, and Bob said the competition is not coming from Airtel and Telkom, it's going to come from Facebook and Tencent. So that's an interesting point to also consider. Staying with telecoms, Tanzania's managing director, who has been in position for exactly 1 week, an Egyptian gentleman called Hisham Hendi, and other executives have been put in jail. The charge is that they intentionally and willfully organized a criminal racket. I don't know how you do that in a week, which caused the government to suffer a pecuniary loss. The government is saying they lost $4.76 million. But what this speaks to is the tremendous uncertainty in the private sector in Tanzania. And there are two schools of thought. One school of thought is that President Magufuli, when he came to power, had a very messy situation, and he's been seeking to clean it up and tidy it up. And the other is more partisan and saying that, He's been too aggressive with international companies. In particular, you remember the saga with the gold mining company, Acacia Mining, where he slapped them with a $90 billion fine. They hadn't even made $1 billion, I don't think. So how they were going to find 90, I don't know. And this speaks to policy making uncertainty, and whether it's us, local investors, whether it's the diaspora, whether it's international investors, policy making instability is one of the things that frightens smart money away. And you've seen that happen in Tanzania. I call it a Magufuli haircut. A haircut is where, for example, recently Uchumi was saying that they were prepared to pay 30 shillings in every 100 shillings they owed to their creditors. That's a 70 shilling haircut. And I think what I'm talking about here is President Magufuli, whether by design or by accident, has created a Magufuli haircut. And it's really quite an interesting situation and a difficult one. And then on top of that, I don't know if you remember when he was unhappy with the prices that were being proposed for cashew nuts, he basically sent in the army and bought up all the cashew nuts. Bought up is not clear to me because it's not clear that the farmers have actually been paid yet. And at the time I said to myself, this is an interesting decision, but the detail will be in the execution. What did I mean by that? When you are taking on 200,000 metric tons of cashew nuts, you better be able to store them. Guess what's happened? The buyers have taken off. The cashew nuts, by all accounts, are not getting fresher. And we're looking at an agricultural fiasco, I'm afraid. And the intention was right, but before you could do something like this, you had to have the storage capacity to keep these cashew nuts fresh. There's nothing worse than a not fresh cashew nut. They don't taste very good, I can tell you. Now, look at the currency. This is the Tanzanian shilling since 2014. You can see the direction has been down since that date. And ultimately, currencies are a very accurate reflection because they tell you which direction the money is going. If a currency is getting cheaper, it means people are selling it. They want to get out of it. You look at that chart and it's telling you very clearly that the Tanzanian shilling is being sold. In part, if you look at a chart with the Kenya shilling, a lot of the Tanzanian money has actually run away from Tanzania, Dar es Salaam, and has come to Nairobi. And partly one of the reasons that the Nairobi shilling, the Kenyan shilling, is strong is exactly because of flight money, because of policy making uncertainty in Magufuli's Tanzania. You remember my quote about Mrs. Thatcher, you cannot buck the markets. Too many leaders try to buck the markets and they always fail. And here we have two failures, currency and cashew nuts. And the value of 200,000 metric tons of cashew nuts, let me tell you, is close to $500 million. And really, our countries can't afford to let $500 million go down the drain. And we've got to keep an eye on what develops there now as we move forward. Egypt sold Eurobonds, 2 billion euro denominated Eurobonds, 9 billion euros of orders. People are very optimistic about Egypt. President al-Sisi has incarcerated a lot of people, but what he has done right is on the economy. This is a 100 million people economy. It's growing at its fastest rate since I think 2011. Investors are really getting into Egyptian assets, and really he made the right moves. He devalued the currency when he had to, and now you're seeing a pretty substantial recovery. Egypt is the third biggest economy in Africa. South Africa and Nigeria, South Africa's first, Nigeria's second, and then Egypt third. But Egypt is growing at 3 times the speed of Nigeria and South Africa, both of which are growing at a rate slower than their population expansion, which is not a good sign, which means you're actually going backwards. Egypt is not at the moment. Algeria without Bouteflika, President Bouteflika is gone. What happens now? He resigned on Tuesday. Millions and millions of protesters filled the Algerian streets, demanding the end to his 20-year rule. And on Tuesday night, the wheelchair-bound 82-year-old president was finally forced from power. Now, the issue is who's really going to replace him? And the army was the one who really pushed him aside. They're going to want to play a role. You have the street, the power of the people. Not one person was injured or killed in these street protests, which lasted 2 months. Not one person. It's an incredible situation. And really, I go back to the point that Marwan Bishara of Al Jazeera said. He said the big question facing Algeria, like others before it, is what, not who, replaces Bouteflika. And what he was saying is Bouteflika was the face, but there's a huge operation and apparatus behind him. And the people on the street don't want just the face changed, they want the whole thing slung out the window. And the question is, are they going to get that or not? And the issue about the street is, you know, this has become a formidable actor. They came out of nowhere, millions of Algerians, and they are a player now. And it goes back to a famous French philosopher, Paul Virilio, and he's talking about workers and workers' rights, and he calls them the revolutionary contingent, like these people in the street in Algeria. And he says it attains its ideal form, not in the place of production, i.e. the factory, but in the street, where for a moment it stops being a cog in the technical machine and itself becomes a motor, a machine of attack. In other words, a producer of speed. And I think you have to recognize that Virilio is really an extraordinary 21st century philosopher. President Tshisekedi, the DR Congo president, who's visited Kenya already twice and seems to have a good rapport with both President Kenyatta and with Raila Odinga. He's on a visit to the US, and he met with the Secretary of State Pompeo, who pledged to support DRC's Tshisekedi's change agenda. And after the change agenda, tackle corruption, improve human rights, and strengthen security. And you know, the Americans have always played a big role in the DR Congo. In fact, its first prime minister was said to have been assassinated on the American instruction. And of course, I told you last time, the Congo is the biggest. 66% of the world's cobalt is in the Congo. Every single phone made has cobalt in it. Without cobalt, so you've got a bit of Congo in your phone. And that's why Congo is so important in the 21st century. And that's why the Americans in particular want to assert some kind of role. The issue here is really President Kabila, the Grey Cardinal, a political genius, has the majority of members of parliament and all the governors. And therefore, President Tshisekedi, in many respects, is on a leash, and Kabila's holding the leash. And the question is, I think, the likes of Pompeo, and he's going to then meet Secretary Bolton. These folks are probably trying to craft a plan which allows Tshisekedi to slip Kabila's leash. And that's what I think they're trying to sort of work together with him to do. Whether he can do it or not is a different matter. Samsung, and fairly ubiquitous in Africa, isn't it? Big brand here, saw a 60% drop in first quarter profit. Sluggish demand for memory chips. They not only make phones, but they make memory chips. And this is the 60% drop from last year to the lowest quarterly profit in 10 quarters. The other thing, and we'll ask Harry about this because it's the, you know, of course, South Korea launched a 5G, I think is this week. They're at the technology's cutting edge. They've been at that cutting edge for many, many years. And we'll talk to him a little bit about Samsung and 5G. What does it all mean? But they've had a tough quarter. And I was also reading that, people are not we're paying a lot for our phones, and we're basically making them last longer. Every year they'll bring out a new brand, but people are now prepared to keep an older brand. Before you didn't want to do that. You looked out of date, out of touch. But what it's saying is we're actually not so concerned about that. We're more concerned about the utility of the phone. And that means people are buying fewer phones and keeping them for longer, and therefore it's not as profitable for these phone companies as it was before. This is a chart of the G7 currencies, how they've performed year to date. You can see that the pound, the British pound, is the best performing currency, and that's because it fell so much last year. It's staging a small recovery. It's still not clear what's going to happen with Brexit, though Theresa May has now requested an extension. The Europeans are saying, look, have an extension for a year. If you don't need the whole year, we don't mind. But don't come to us with a very short period and then you come back to us and back to us again and back to us again, which is what they've been doing, a little bit like Groundhog Day. So we'll see how that goes. It's still very murky. It's difficult to make a clear perspective on what's going to happen next, but they seem to have been able to kick the can down the road. The question is for how long. About 2 weeks ago, I went to Wajir, and on the drive back was when I heard about the Ethiopian crash. We were halfway between Wajir and Nairobi, and that was exactly 2 weeks ago. Yesterday, it was the first day the Boeing CEO apologized. It took him 2 weeks. It is a public relations disaster unfolding in front of our eyes. A company that sells 50 Boeings a month of these 737s at about $120 million a pop did not understand public relations to this degree is just extraordinary. The share price, of course, has lost a lot of value, about $10 billion, but I'm just so taken aback. They started off with a whataboutism, it can't be that, it might be the pilots haven't been trained sufficiently. The Ethiopians pushed back and said, actually, our pilots were well trained, they did everything, they switched off this system, and they tried 4 times to manually fly this plane and they couldn't do it. But my point is, what on earth is going on at Boeing? Do they not understand public relations? Do they not understand that really the first thing you should have done was apologize? People have lost lives. Took him 2 weeks. It's just mind-boggling. As I said, Theresa May is asking the EU to delay Brexit until June 30, and she's obviously going to get that extension, but it's still not clear on what basis they're going to get it and where the British Parliament's going to agree on what type of exit, if at all. They might stay in it for all we know. President Trump says it's massive. This is what he said. It's a massive deal. Could be one of the, I guess it is, if you think about it, the biggest deal ever made. He loves superlatives, doesn't he? There can't be a deal like this no matter where you look, he said. There can't be a deal like this. This is the granddaddy of them all. He's talking about a possible deal now to resolve the tariff war between China and America. He's getting excited, but when I read that statement of his, I thought to myself, President Xi Jinping has played President Trump like Yehudi Menuhin used to play the violin. He was a virtuoso of the violin. President Trump has many Shakespearean qualities. Everything has got to be the best, the biggest. And I think Xi Jinping understood that. And I'm sure he played to his ego. And that's why you see him talking about the granddaddy. I can imagine Xi's on the phone. Donald, you and I are going to do the biggest deal you've ever made. We've just got to agree details. We're nearly there. Imagine the world, we're going to save the world with this enormous granddaddy of a deal. You can imagine it in the back of your mind. And that brings me to a fact in the markets. They say you should buy the rumor and sell the fact. The market has been getting optimistic on this deal, particularly US equities, global stock markets have risen because everybody's thinking it's all going to be hunky-dory once these two sort it out. But you know what this rule in the markets is? Buy the rumor, sell the fact. I think when they announce this deal, the markets are going to go down because it all will be priced in. Today, let me talk about something which is really quite fascinating. Saudi Arabia said today that they are threatening to ditch the dollar. Basically, all Saudi's oil is sold in dollars. It's called the petrodollar contract, an agreement that was struck many years ago between the King of Saudi Arabia and President Truman on a boat off Saudi Arabia. That's when the agreement was made. What was that agreement? Saudi would sell their oil in dollars. They would reinvest those dollars, the surplus dollars, in America. And that was the basis of what is the petrodollar economy and the basis of American power. And just to give you a sense what size I'm talking about, the oil economy at the current price of $70 per barrel has an annual value of output of $2.5 trillion, more than the entire economy of Africa. Then you put in the trading that goes on, people buying and selling oil in the markets, and you double it, it's $5 trillion. Now, it's probably the biggest amount of cash in the global economy, bar none. Today, if you just add up the amount of barrels that are produced today, you times it by the price, you'll see what I'm talking about. Now, when leaders have talked about ditching the petrodollar, it has not ended well. Let me give you a couple of examples. Saddam Hussein ended up dead when he suggested that they should sell oil in euros. It was really quick. Muammar Gaddafi, do you remember what he wanted to do? He wanted to ditch the dollar too. At one time he wanted an African currency. Another time he wanted to sell oil in gold. What happened to him? He ended up dead as well. So the Americans consider any leader who talks about ditching the dollar, they consider it an act of war. It is incredible that the Saudi Arabians are prepared to go public with this kind of comment, given that it never ends well. Let me just go back to the petrodollar. If one accepts that access to oil defined 20th century empires and the petrodollar agreement was the key to the ascendancy of the United States as the world's sole superpower, America's war machine runs on, is funded by, and exists in protection of oil. Threats by any nation to undermine the petrodollar system are viewed by Washington as tantamount to a declaration of war against the United States of America. This is the biggest geopolitical red line that exists in the 21st century, bar none. Gaddafi found out, Saddam found out, Nicolas Maduro's finding out. He's under tremendous pressure as well. So it's typically a very, very bad idea, even if you wanted to ditch the dollar, to announce it in public. And that leads me to believe that the Saudis are really misreading the situation. Trump and his son-in-law Kushner will not be able to save the Crown Prince because the Americans see this in a very, very binary black and white way. You want to ditch the petrodollar, you are Saudi Arabia, they're going to find somebody who won't want to ditch it. And I think the Crown Prince, I know he committed that murder in Istanbul, but this is a far riskier pronouncement than even what he did in Istanbul. The Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, of course, is the alleged owner of this painting. It's Leonardo da Vinci's Salvatore Mundi. It means the savior of the world. Do you know how much he paid for this painting? He paid $450 million. That's probably half a Eurobond for this painting. Now, the painting shows Jesus in Renaissance dress giving a benediction with his right hand raised and two fingers extended while holding a transparent rock crystal orb in his left hand. The rock crystal orb, of course, reappeared during Trump's visit to the Desert Kingdom. Now, let me leave you with that, and let me also leave you with this other painting. This is Andy Warhol's 200 $1 bills, and I used it because it represented the petrodollar economy, the power of King Dollar, the fact that, you know, this has been maintained and is a pillar of American power. This particular painting that you've got up there was actually sold for $43.8 million. And Andy Warhol's dollar bills have gone through the roof as people have appreciated its connection with economics and geopolitics, and they've bid it up on the price. I thank you for sticking with us in our first half. This is Metropol TV, 24-hour business channel, the first in Kenya and East Africa. My name is Ali Khan Sachu. Our show is The Smart Investor. We will come back after the break with a very dynamic Hawaiian shirt besuited technology guru, Harry Hare, CIO Magazine, and Demo Africa. And we look forward to that. Thank you, and look forward to seeing you after the break. Welcome back to Metropol TV, the first 24-hour business channel here in Kenya and East Africa. My name is Ali Khan Sachu. I'm the host of The Smart Investor, and we've got a very smart fellow with us here, Harry Hare, our dear friend, and I've had to drag him off this. He was on a hot date, and he's especially come in, and I appreciate it.
Thank
and
you.
I love the shirt, Harry.
Thank you.
I'd like one of those.
You need to talk to me after this.
Harry is the publisher of CIO Magazine.
Yes.
The founder of the Pan-African Demo Africa platform.
Correct.
You know, sometimes I'm lucky we got you here, because otherwise you're gallivanting in Morocco and all parts of the world. And why don't you just briefly tell us, CIO, I'm sure everybody knows, that's CIO Information Officer, IT, what's happening, Go-To Magazine, and Demo. Just tell us a little bit in your words what Demo is, how, you know, what you want to make it.
Okay, so Demo basically is we call it a platform.
Yes.
And the idea behind Demo is to identify interesting, bankable, investable technology startups from Africa.
Yes.
Work with them, because most of the time what we found is you get these companies, but they are at their very early stage, so they need a lot of mentorship, they need a lot of coaching. Then we also.
So you're a coach?
Maybe.
Yes.
Yeah. So coach them, but also try and give them resources. Some different types of resources. So it could be technology tools that they use to build their businesses. Then, after we are happy with them, we introduce them to investors. We introduce them to technology buyers. So that, you know,
you're like a one-stop shop.
Almost, yeah. But the idea is
you're at the coalface of what everybody else is talking about, the ICT economy. You're actually in it.
Sometimes I feel like I am so unlucky because because I see all these good things and bad things at the same time. But yeah, you're right. I'm like in between guys who are building new stuff, and guys who are using new stuff, and guys who are falling off.
Yes.
So you're seeing all these happening.
And really, that's the cutting edge, is where you know people are excited about these fast-growing, early-stage startups, but not many people are in that space, or like in the way you are.
Yeah, very true, very true.
I would like to pick your brain on just some big themes that are happening in the world first, and then come back to Kenya. We saw the launch of 5G in South Korea. Is that a big deal?
Oh, it's massive.
It's massive.
It's big.
In what sense is it? I mean, what are we talking about here? What's the difference between that and what I've got here?
Okay, so you know the technologies that everybody's talking about.
Yes.
So you're talking about AI, artificial intelligence, you're talking about blockchain, you're talking about cloud, you're talking about IoT, Now,
Harry, whilst I got here, why don't you explain to people, because sometimes these terms,
Okay.
you know, we recite them. Okay, so let's start. What was the first one? AI.
AI.
What is AI?
So artificial intelligence is it's software
Yes.
that has been designed to learn what
Self-learning.
Self-learning. Look at trends. So, for instance, every day you come here, you do certain things. So those trends, then the software learns all that.
Yes.
Then it can do them without you.
So let me give you one example
Yeah.
of, you know, when I first went to the trading floor, foreign exchange was traded on the phone.
Yeah.
You'd ring up, you'd do it on the phone. Today, no one rings each other. It's all done by computers.
That's AI.
Is that AI?
That's AI.
That's AI.
Yeah, that's AI.
And apparently the Brexit has messed them up because they can't follow too many headlines.
Yeah.
You know, normally there are 35 stories, now there are 500 a day, and they don't know which story to take.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, so it's
But are they taking us over? I mean, are we still the
No.
agents?
No,
you know,
no,
I
no.
keep reading these philosophical things saying they're taking us over. You're
No,
not making
I
decisions.
think that's scaremongering. I
Okay.
think it's scaremongering because you see, a lot of the time, all these have to be programmed by us. So you know, and when you look at the things that a lot of the AI stuff is doing, is the mundane things, the things that you keep on doing every day without thinking. But the moment you bring in stuff that you need to think through,
Yes.
the human intellect will always be up there.
You think so?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
yes,
so
yes.
so we're okay.
We are good. We are good.
You were saying AI, Internet of Things. What is Internet of Things?
So your phone, your phone is connected to, probably within here, it's connected to like 6-7 different devices.
At any one time.
At any one time.
Yes.
So that is the internet of that phone.
Yes.
So you can imagine now all these phones now interconnected with each other. So that is the Internet of Things. So it's sensors, it's devices.
Yes.
So basic use case for IoT, for instance, is you're walking into, which is your favorite mall?
My favorite mall.
Yeah. Carrefour? I
Yes,
heard you
yes,
talk
yes.
about
No,
Carrefour.
I was impressed at the numbers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. So
Serious
Carrefour.
numbers. Serious
Yes,
numbers.
Serious
yeah.
numbers.
Yeah. So you're walking into Carrefour, and all of a sudden your phone buzzes, and when you look at you look at your phone tells you that today we have an offer on aisle 16,
Yes.
shelf 10 on your
So
favorite.
this is the ability to communicate at close proximities. So
Yes.
that's very powerful.
Yeah,
isn't
it is. It
If
is.
you like pizza, and I know you
Yeah.
like pizza, I could be offering you a half-price pizza,
Yeah,
which I feel bad about. I know you had a date. Sorry.
It's all right. It's all right. So all these technologies now, right now they're struggling, and people have to go around when they're building their software. They have to go around a lot of hurdles to make it fit or to make it work efficiently.
Is that the problem Boeing had?
I won't go there. but yeah, so 5G
Yes.
comes with now the capability for these technologies to actually to run like on steroids.
Wow.
Yeah.
So do you see it as being quite a revolution?
It's gonna be.
Yes.
Yeah, it's gonna be. It's going to be maybe have a bigger impact on mobile networks than 4G or 3G.
Let me jump you now, come back and take you to another story. We recently learned that Jumia is going to list in New York accumulated losses of $1 billion, Harry.
Yeah.
Obviously, e-commerce is coming. We know that. They've probably got a first mover advantage. The first African unicorn, though it's not owned by Africans, but it's in Africa. Are we going to see many more of these? Is this a bankable prospect for somebody like, are people looking to invest in it? What is your perspective on this whole e-commerce and Jumia valuations? Or are Alibaba going to come and have their lunch?
I think so. There are two things.
Yes.
The way I look at it, I see two things. Number one, the valuation of a lot of these companies, especially when you look at most of these companies, the valuation is very skewed into your American investors. So a lot of American investors, and this is something that I've been seeing, because even Uber.
Yes, yes.
Look at the valuation of
yes,
Uber.
Yes, 120 billion they're talking about.
So if you look at the valuation of those companies, and then you go back and look at the investors who are putting money into those companies, a lot of these guys are actually buying the promise.
Yes. Like Amazon made losses for 10 years.
Yes,
but actually, you were right to buy the promise.
Yeah.
Look at it now.
Yeah, so they're buying the promise. So they're investing in the promise.
And they're prepared to take losses if you hit scale.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you look at what Jumia has done in the last couple of years, you will see what they're doing is driving numbers. So have more customers on the platform, have more merchants on the platform. So just fattening the platform, to make sure that there's a lot of people on both sides of the marketplace, so that when what happens, then you're in a good position. So that is number one. Then
so these are platform businesses, is what you're telling me.
Yes.
And what you're also telling me is, look, investors, if they can see a growth path, they'll take the pain now.
They will.
Yeah,
they will.
And I suppose it's paid off. But when you hit it, it's a jackpot.
Oh yeah. You just said it. Amazon, look at that.
Yes.
Yeah, they made losses for 10 years.
And people believed in all that. It's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
But no one here would be able to take that.
So
that's why they've gone to New York.
Correct. And again, that is another thing that I wanted to talk about. Because you see, when you look at how we build businesses in Kenya or in Africa or in East Africa, we build them completely different.
Tell me how
we build it to be profitable from day one.
Yes. We can't take losses.
Yeah.
We don't. So that's an interesting point. But does that mean that we're at a disadvantage in the ICT economy when
we are?
Yes.
Yeah, we are. Because even when you get money from local investors, it's very impatient capital.
Very impatient. Yeah. That's a good word, actually.
Yeah. So people want to put money in, and they want to get their return on investment next year.
And is this generational, that all the capital is with older people in the country and not enough for the younger people, and therefore you've got this generation gap where people don't understand what you're talking about?
I think that is one of the problems, in the sense that, and you can't blame people for wanting their money back. But I think it's a way that wealth was created in the first place. A lot of these guys who are wealthy and are now investing in other companies, they went through rough time to get that wealth. So that's the thinking.
Yes.
But you see now that sort of it's actually like shooting yourself in the foot, because you see you are now not able to grow the company that you're investing in.
Yes, and not aggressive enough, because if you're sitting there waiting for your profits, you've never done Uber.
No,
you'd be too slow. You wouldn't have done.
Guys would come and just
they'd come overnight and finish you.
Yeah, and finish you.
And the other thing on that point, okay, so what you're saying is we're not able to allocate capital to this very important part of the economy.
No, not enough.
Yeah.
Not enough.
So who fills the gap? Internationals.
A lot of it is international companies. We've been seeing a lot of experiments as well from international NGOs and donors trying to stimulate that. Yeah, but a lot of that gap is actually filled in by international people.
So let me ask you another question. You have obviously been up close and personal. You're a practitioner. You're at the coalface. You're not coming out of the government regulatory space. You've actually had to build a business which made money through this entire extraordinary, disruptive last 10 years that we've seen. What do you, when you look into your crystal ball, when you look, Vinod Khosla, who invented Sun Microsystems, said the future is not in the rear view mirror, right?
Yeah.
And he says you can't look backwards to see what's going to happen there. You've got to think it's going to be totally different. And it feels like that to me. Like there's been this, you're looking at, Harry, we've got you here. Tell us where we have to look next. If we have some money that we want to put to work, tell us where we should be putting it to work. And do we have an indigenous platform to do that? Are you that person?
Oh,
Should you be that person, Harry?
Ali Khan. I don't know, man. It's a, you see, the technology world changes so quickly. And I think what I can say is, if somebody wanted to invest in tech, you cannot invest in tech in the traditional manner.
Yes.
You have to be able to look at trends that are happening now that look like either Ponzi schemes or whatever. But you have to be able to look at trends that are happening now and see the future. So let me give you an example. Right now, the big thing that people are looking at, and there's absolutely no use case that is very convincing to a lot of people.
What are you going to say? Blockchain.
Blockchain.
Yes.
If you
Is it? I meet some people who tell me Ali Khan is a glorified database.
Yes,
I meet other people who say this is going to save the world. All our property transactions are going to be pukka. No one will be able to, you know, this is the silver bullet for the Kenyan economy.
You know, sometimes I tell guys, you know, sometimes how you make a statement and then you say, let's revisit this 10 years from now. This is that point of time where you're saying, watch the blockchain.
Yes.
Because I think the use cases are coming in. It started in it wasn't very convincing, especially around the corporate.
Yes.
But now the corporate, people like Musk have started talking about.
They're using it
yes,
for.
They're using
yes.
it for their shipping.
I saw Singapore Airlines.
Yeah, Singapore Airlines. IBM has started actually building solutions based out of blockchain. So these are not stupid people. They're not gonna put their money where there's nothing. So blockchain.
Okay.
Yeah.
You think it's a big thing?
It's a big thing.
Are you a believer in cryptocurrencies? Because I noticed, JP Morgan, this guy called Jamie Dimon, very famous banker, he completely dissed it, said it's all nonsense. And now I see he's got a JPM coin. So what's your thinking around those? There were a lot of pump and dump schemes, Harry, weren't there? I mean,
a lot. I think crypto is there to stay.
Yes.
That's for sure.
It is.
It's there to stay.
Yeah.
People will use crypto, whether it's a Bitcoin or it's a Cane coin. I'm told there's Cane coin coming.
Yes,
up.
it is coming, is it?
Yeah, I hear.
Yes.
So either crypto will be there.
Yeah.
And the thing about crypto is it's not an investment vehicle.
No. What is it?
It's a transactional tool.
But you see, a lot of our people look at it as an investment.
And that is a problem.
Yes.
That is why
and
people are losing
very high
money.
expectations. They think they can make 10% a month, 20% a month.
That is why they're losing money. Crypto is money.
Yes.
You have Kenya shillings 20 to buy a book for Kenya shillings 15.
Yes.
Yeah, you use crypto to buy. But I don't think it's an investment vehicle. That's my point.
That's a very interesting point you're making.
It's not.
Because a lot of people look at it as an investment vehicle, alternative investment vehicle. And you see a tremendous volatility.
Yes, yes.
Only this week, the Bitcoin price went up 20%.
Crazy. And the other day, there's a lady, I think I saw it in the papers, who lost, I think, all her savings.
Yes.
Yeah.
So do you think you should come with an investor warning?
Maybe it should.
Yeah.
Maybe it should. Yeah, but I think it's, I personally do not think it's an investment vehicle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Harry, I remember about 10 years ago, everyone was talking about Silicon Savannah and they all got very excited. And then it kind of went down, right? They went quiet. I think, and now, are we at that Silicon Savannah moment?
Not yet.
Not yet?
Not yet.
What's holding us back? Why? We got 3, 4G, we got fast internet, we got the infrastructure.
I think the vision of Silicon Savannah sort of...
What was wrong with it? I thought it was you have to have density and proximity. I mean, if you look at something like San Francisco, you got the university right there. You've got, whereas to put it, miles out of Nairobi, I didn't think was necessarily the best idea.
I don't even think that's a problem. I think the problem is because you see, Silicon Savannah should not be infrastructure.
It should be what? Human capital.
It should be human capital. It should be business. It should be It should be people building stuff. It should be, so it doesn't have to be Konza. That's a Silicon Savannah. No, it should be people in iHub, people in NILAB, people in whatever, building stuff, and there's an infusion of capital. There's kids coming out of universities with good degrees to do software engineering or to do hardware engineering, supporting that creativity that is happening in those places. It's about people buying technology, locally developed, created technology to run their businesses, to run government, to run, because that's how.
Is that happening?
No, it's not happening.
But have we got products that could make it happen, or we haven't got the products?
I think we just need to switch our mindset, where we stop looking at Silicon Savannah or whatever it is into a physical place somewhere in Machakos. We need to change our consumption models and styles. For instance, I know there's a law that says government should, whatever expenditure from government, X amount should be local, or X amount should belong to the youth.
30%.
Yeah. So how much of that goes to buying local technology? Because we have good technology built locally. How much of that goes to buy technology?
I don't know.
Yeah.
So you're saying not sufficiently.
No, because that is how now.
And that's actually how economies grow their own technology sectors. Israel, look at their,
In fact, the other day somebody was saying, if you look at China, when China blocked Google,
they created their own.
They created their own.
Yes.
But
are you asking for us to block Google?
No, I'm not saying that. No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. But it just shows you that you need to purpose to do these things.
Purpose economy.
Yes, you need to purpose it.
Now, I am aware I'm holding you up, and my producer is saying you can't hold that man with that shirt on at past 9 p.m. Harry, we'd like you to come back, give us more of a flavor. We really appreciate the whirlwind tour you gave to us today, and thanks for being such a stand-up
I enjoyed the
man.
talk. I enjoyed the talk.
No, it was a pleasure. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me around.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I hope I didn't put you into trouble.
No. This is Metropol TV. This was The Smart Investor. My name was Ali Khan Sachu, and my guest, Harry Hare, is from Kilifi, not too far from where I was born either. These Kilifi boys are making big headway, as I've just told them. So thank you, Harry, again. Thank you, everybody. I know it's 9 p.m. It's time to get out. I'm getting out myself as well. Thank you for watching our show.